Hello, this is Tiia, your host of the Writing Diary. I apologize beforehand if you hear my fan. I really need it running right now. Without, I would not exist. We have not heard from each other for a while, and this is not because I gave up on writing. It is because I actually sat down and did write. Summer in Germany has started, and whatever you have heard about the summer here, it's probably quite different. We have extreme temperature changes here that make life quite miserable through most days of summer. And just right now, we're living through another heatwave that we may talk about in a few years in a sense of, remember that one year? Yeah, that was crazy. And while my brain was slow burning and slow cooking and the German bureaucracy with my self-employment almost turned out to be a full-time job, I wrote another short story. And this time it's a submission for a horror magazine. 5,000 words, something that I can write rather quickly, but that also needs more planning as the story can't slowly develop and I don't have a lot of room to tell a full story while also creating a mood. Every sentence needs to have its place for a reason and nothing can only be a filler that just sounds nice. And this is a challenge, and I gave my story to beta readers after the first round and then used their feedback to add it into the final version. And this was also the first time I had to write a cover letter, and it felt awkward talking about myself, but I think it might get easier with more practice. And the awkwardness of writing about yourself the first time, writing about yourself in the third person, it's all something to get used to in the end. I feel good about my story, and something about the submission also made me realize I do like modern cosmic horror, just as much as I like the classic gaslight setting. Being put under the restriction of getting out of your own comfort zone can be wonderful. It's an opportunity of finding new directions, new options, and new interests. And for me, cosmic horror was almost only the classical setting. But this story forced me into the thought of, what if? What is cosmic horror after all? It is the unexplainable. It is the idea that our existence is meaningless in the greater picture of cosmic entities. It's not defining things as good and bad. It's accepting things as what they are and accepting them as something bigger than our own existence. We're growing up and we get pushed into this thought of things or people who can be pushed either in the good or bad category. May it be cultural background or religion, good, bad, light, darkness. The duality of being is a deep Christian picture that cosmic horror doesn't even accept. What does it matter after all what we think is good or bad because we don't matter? This may seem pessimistic, but in the end it's just a wild mixture of existentialism with nihilism and absurdism put into stories with examples. And to understand cosmic horror, you may need to understand these concepts. For the format and the length of this podcast, I just dumb them down into a sentence or two. Existentialism means the world has no meaning. Your choices will give your existence a meaning. Nihilism also believes that the world has no meaning, but it also doesn't believe that you're important enough to give it one. And absurdism doesn't believe in a meaning of anything, thinks it is useless to find meaning, but also tells you to make the best out of it. So in some way it's contradicting itself, fitting its name. And now you can see how cosmic horror nips on all of these concepts a little bit, but looks at it not from the perspective of the human or the cosmic entity, but a narrator, an observer almost. Because humans in these stories do have a sense of meaning and usually lose their minds or trust into whatever they believe in through the realization that their worldview is just a made-up concept, that their beliefs are cute but irrelevant. Writing stories where you don't have a clear, defined good or bad is challenging. I had very heated discussions about this concept in January when watching the new Nosferatu and not agreeing with the moral duality that people try to put on the story because it doesn't work, especially in a setting where social norms were seen as good and pure and right, which are now seen as negative. There's no way you can put a moral judgment on every single plotline in that story. Stories these days are often pre-digested. Readers are told who is good, who is bad, who we should like, and who we should ship. Creating a story that takes away learning wheels from the bike of reading and leaves you with the moral ambiguity of the story is not only impactful because it denies this classic way of storytelling, but also because the unease it creates is part of the story. It drags the reader into the story by making them feel lost in how to interpret and analyze what they are reading. This concept is probably one of my favorite things in cosmic horror. Instead of pre-digesting, I will give you the raw ingredients and watch you figure out a recipe. I wrote down a few lines a few weeks ago with the inspiration to Nietzsche's quote, "And if you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you." And I gave it a cosmic horror twist when I wrote, "The abyss gazes not back, for it sees nothing worth of notice." And that somehow perfectly describes also the morality we use to navigate through the world, but that just doesn't matter in cosmic horror. And this has been a cause of conflict within the cosmic horror world as well, when August Derleth introduced the moral dichotomy, meaning the introduction of good and evil into the Worldcraft universe after Lovecraft's death. It stood in direct opposition to Lovecraft's indifferent cosmos. Suddenly, gods were given a good gods and bad gods label, reducing existential horror into morality tales. And morality tales make for easier and more approachable stories, yes. Order gives structure, but the chaos, the uncertainty, they are an important part of the plot. And by far, Lovecraft wasn't perfect. I don't have to tell that to anyone, but I think it is possible to strip his legacy from the things that were actually problematic, while keeping the core pillars that define the genre, without turning it into blunt, generic horror. That way, cosmic horror can be preserved as an important part of literature, while still acknowledging its dark past. And while I now rabbit hole rambling about my love for cosmic horror, I think it's in the hands of the writers today to shape cosmic horror, to find the similarities that we want and add the new voices that we need. And while Derleth has maybe been the necessary evil to preserve and popularize Lovecraft's work, we can now approach storytelling within cosmic horror, honoring the pillars of the genre and tell the new and dreadful stories of our time. And now, wish me luck that my short story that I submitted gets accepted. I know I've not uploaded for a while as life and writing got into the way, and I will try my best to keep the breaks between these episodes as short as possible. Like we already said, we do not want burnouts and overworking. We want fun and exciting projects. And feel free to tell me in the comments what you have been working on in the past month.